Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, they, thems, whatever the fourth thing you may identify as, we are all here gathered today to talk about the anime community in its entirety. How beautiful it is and how toxic it can be all overall. So, this on the right of me is the legend, the myth, the man, the person that grew up from nothing, making skits on YouTube, doing everything in his power to become the greatest, his own pillar, Shonen. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Man, thank you for having me, man. It's been a long time since we did a video together, man. So I just, I appreciate you having me on here. Yeah, I'm ready to get into it, man.
All right, so how was your experience firstly getting an anime? What got you specifically into anime?
Growing up watching, the classics on Toonami, Dragon Ball Z, Yu Yu Hakusho, Inuyasha, all those things. I'm watching it with my cousins. Uh, I was doing everything all the other kids were doing around my age, playing Pokemon, playing Yu-Gi-Oh and all of that stuff. And then I continued on and just kept on watching. And now it's, become a huge part of my life to the point where, I'm making content around it, which is crazy. But yeah, man, I started how most kids in the 90s grew up watching it, or early 2000s.
So you started off with what would be considered dubbed content because it was dubbed by an American thing. You had no idea about the original Japanese at all, correct?
Not when I first started it as from a young age, but I did start watching sub later on when it was, Naruto sub was coming out and the dub was taking too long. You know what I mean? Then I started jumping right into the sub, so that helped open up, the umbrella to see other things out there. Yeah.
Wonderful. I personally, I was what the kids would call a Dragon Ball Z black guy. I didn't know much about like Naruto or anything of that variety because I was like, oh yeah, Goku's tough, and I only made it ever to sell. I had not watched Majin Buu for so long because I didn't know the track record of it. I had
hmm
saw Vegito once, and I was like, that's kind of cool. And then Tenkaichi came out, and I actually could actually play the whole story and know what happened. And I thought GT was canon. I didn't know what canon and non-canon was back in the day.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. Yeah.
this is where we have the first issue. Everybody has this issue with the dub of anime. They always complain that sub is better than dub. Do you
Mhm.
think that strays new fans away from actually getting into anime at all, or do you think that actually solidifies that okay, the Japanese used to respect the original? What is your opinion on that?
Um, my opinion, I guess, on sub versus dub is I'm personally a sub guy. I like how the voice actors in the original language are able to bring out the energy, but I do think there are some dubs that definitely get overlooked. Obviously, there's some dubs I love personally, but it's for nostalgia reasons. But other dubs out there are still really, really good. It just depends because I feel like sometimes the way it's translated, it sounds weird in a different language, which is I don't know, like it's tough to really explain, but
Is it kind of
it's
like the cadence of because Japanese you'll hear a sentence like "yamete, sugare, ogarare,"
yeah,
and it's like
yeah,
stop. What are you doing? Stop right there. It's like is
right. It has to be translated a little bit better to it, I guess, in a way for an American English style for us to enjoy it, I guess, in the West. Because in Japanese it sounds awesome because it's foreign to us, it's unique. But over here sometimes dubs can sound a little too theatric and not real. One of my favorite dubs of all time is Yu Yu Hakusho because the way they were able to really, voice act Yu Yu Hakusho, it made it sound like having personal conversations at that time. But then other times, dubs sound a little too theatric. It does not sound realistic. Nobody walking down the street actually talks in that tone or, presents himself that way. So it's just trying to find like the balance between realism and still, you know, having the American English vibe to it. So that's why I personally prefer sub, and also that sub comes out faster than dub, right? Dub takes
mm,
a little bit longer to release on a lot of anime. Not all of them. They've been doing a lot better with especially the new gen anime out there, but I think for the most part subs have been coming out faster. So it's just if you want to know the content quicker and not read the manga, then you're going to end up, becoming a sub fan automatically. So that's kind of the way I see it.
Do you think that it would be better if they released the dub and the sub at the same exact time? Do you think that would help out people in general?
Yes, 100%. There's some anime out there where they're doing that. But for the most part, it's been, sub has been leading dub for a lot of shows.
That that's fair because I this is gonna sound crazy. I didn't watch Chainsaw Man for a long time. I had read bits and pieces of it. I had saw what the darkness dude was, and I was like, oh, that's astronauts. I don't know what's going on. So I decided to read it, and then I was like, this is probably the greatest piece of fiction I've ever read in my life. This is amazing. This is such a cohesive and tightly knit story. And then I watched the dub, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. This is probably. And I watched the sub and it didn't hit the same because then the dub had very specific, like, comedy choices. Same with like Psyche K or Trigun or Cowboy Bebop. Those dubs
Right.
or Full Metal even. I prefer the Full Metal dub as opposed to the sub.
Yes. Yes.
And I will never watch the Dragon Ball Z sub. I'm not gonna lie to anybody. I just won't.
Yes. and that's I was actually gonna go that way in that direction as well. The Dragon Ball Z, all Dragon Ball content sounds better in dub. The dub, they kill it every single time. For the movies that have been coming out, everything. It sounds better in dub.
Do you think that's the issue with direction, or do you think that's an issue with just the language in itself?
I think it's see that's a tough one. I think there's some dubs that we enjoy because even though it sounds, a little too theatric at times, like we're more accepting of that as kids, I feel like, and our nostalgia plays a huge role in us watching, Goku yell Kamehameha even as grown men and grown women, right? But I think that, as a grown adult at this age, looking back and watching some dubs, like if you haven't watched them from when you were a kid, it's gonna have a different feel. Like there's certain things that we accepted when we were younger that we really wouldn't accept now. So I think it has to do more with trying to find the best way to, because you can't translate it one for one. That's point blank period. Something that's said in Japanese and you translate it one for one American English, it's going to sound weird, right? So you have to kind of like put a spin on it and also change the tone of voice, make it still fit the character, but make it still sound realistic, something that people would say in everyday life. And I feel like for the most part, they missed the mark. But there's a few outliers where it's like one to one, like this equal to a sub, or sometimes it's even better. Dragon Ball Z is a case where it's better than the sub, 100%. Goku's voice in sub, I can't. I can't do it.
It's so high. I think it's because, and it's gonna sound crazy because I don't. The Naruto is a woman too. It's something with the cadence of how high pitched Goku's voice sounds. It agitates me somehow. I'm like, wow, this is ringing to my ears. And there are women who do amazing jobs with double voices, like in the Boondocks. Riley and Huey are both women.
Yes,
I didn't know that.
Amazing. Yes, yeah.
And it's like this disconnect with me, where I'm like, oh man, there's got to be something different here. There's got to be something I can do that's different. This way.
Yeah. No, I completely agree, man. I mean, I think, in Japan, they probably look at Goku and say he's supposed to sound high pitched because they grew up, with that. We grew up with, Sean Schemmel and so when we hear Goku in high pitch because we're trying to, watch Super ahead of time, then it's like, whoa, what's going on? Like Goku doesn't sound like Goku, So it's a different feel.
It's true. It's same with Vegeta and all that mess. And I think that what I've seen is that tear anime fans apart. Like people will actually have heated debates saying, oh, the sub is better than the dub, or I'm not watching the dub because I need to be able to do secondary tasks while I'm watching the thing. And that causes people to destroy things. Like one beautiful thing about One Piece, I feel, is it isn't even the story about One Piece that invests me most of the time. It's the conversations about the story that really gets me into it. It's, oh my goodness, what is Laugh Tale? Joy Boy, what's going on here? I love talking about it in real time as it happens. But if somebody's still at Wano and I'm talking about Egghead, and now we're like, I can't speak about the whole thing with you, despite us both being devout One Piece fans, but one person doesn't watch it in that capacity. I think that creates a little bit of a disconnect, and it also makes other anime fans not want to get into it Like when I want to be a part of the community in its essence, and I think that destroys a part of the community in its totality. How do you feel about the destruction of the community between the two mediums? Do you think it's actually tearing the community down overall?
What with I guess a sub versus dub difference or like the
Yeah.
manga difference?
Yeah, sub versus
Um
dub versus manga. Like, do you think that's actually creating a lot of disconnects? Because nope, if you watch only anime, you're never gonna see Vagabond. Like, it's like a whole thing
yeah,
there. So, do you think that
right.
destroys like a lot of people's like getting into anime? Do you think that ruins it?
Um I guess it could. I don't know if it would ruin it, or even if it does ruin it right now. I think what makes it an issue is spoilers, right? People
Mm.
want to avoid spoilers, but in this day and age, it's the internet. People want to be able to discuss things that are happening right away. We're at a point now where growing up, you didn't really have to worry about spoilers as much, but now it's you almost have to become a manga reader so you don't get spoiled. Like what's going on with the JJK community right now is
Oh,
crazy. I literally had to read the JJK manga because I was like, I can't even cover JJJ. I can't cover JJJ. My bad. I can't cover JJK content, and I can't even like go on Twitter without seeing, oh, this person died. This is going on. So I'm like, all right. At some point, I have to lock into the manga. And similar things was happening with One Piece. But the thing is I'm a huge One Piece fan, so I had no problem reading the manga and covering the manga. It was just when I first started creating content, I wanted to have something for the anime only fandom out there to have something to talk about. But at this point, I noticed that the manga the manga fans are starting to outnumber the anime only fans by
a
a
wide
large,
margin.
like a yeah,
I
exactly.
think I think they're the vocal minority because
Yeah.
it'll be like I'll be in this community and I'll be like, man, everybody here is gay. This is new. I'm like, oh, this is new. I didn't know that. And then I'll go into the real world where the majority is, and it's like, oh, there most people are straight. But I was in the minority community for so long. I'm like, dang, this so weird that you're not even a little gay. No, oh, that's strange. That caught me off guard. I'll be
Yeah.
confused. I'll be like that new to me, and I'll be like, you sure you haven't read Vagabond? No, I'll talk to 50 people in a row that have all read Vagabond, and then they'll be like, nah, I've never even heard of. I don't read. I haven't even read a magazine. It's like, dang, that sucks.
Yeah, yeah. It's different. It's different for sure. But I mean, I think it's kind of like a prerequisite now. Like if you want to have some deep conversations about, any anime or manga, you have to you have to be up to date. Like
You gotta
it's getting
tap
to
in.
that point.
I have
Right.
every time I start an anime, like I'll start an anime. I started Remonster recently, right? And
Hmm.
I thought it was complete ass. I don't like Remonster at all. I don't know if you ever heard of it. Is it?
I never did.
Oh my god, it's an isekai where a guy gets
Oh,
reincarnated as a goblin, and I'm like, another isekai, boom. All right, whatever. So I started it and I was like, this is the worst animation. The pacing's horrible. And by the third episode, he has an entire harem already of 5 women. It's the third episode, and he's already a even equivocal god, one tier away from being the god of the verse by the third episode. I'm like,
yeah.
this
Sounds
is
like an isekai. Yep.
this is so stupid. And then I was like, let me just read the manga. The manga is so much more ridiculous and hornier. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Why is this a? All right, whatever. It is what it is. It is what it is. And I feel
Yeah.
like if I don't keep up with like I didn't know anything about JJK when I first started. I started with the movie because someone said start with the movie, so I started the movie,
Hmm.
and I was like, okay, start with episode 1. I'm like, what happened to my boy Yuta? Like, where's he at? And there's like, oh, don't worry, he's coming back later. I get to the end of season 2. I'm like, Yuta's not back. Oh, Yuta's back. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
But it took so
Yeah.
long. I'm like, I'm not even sure if that was worth it. And then I read the manga, and I'm like, oh, the manga started with Yuta because it was a one shot. Okay, this makes a little bit more sense. And it's just it messes me up so deeply to try to be a part of the conversation and discussion because I'm not risking my entire life to read every facet of Boruto or something.
Right.
It's,
Right. But it's to be involved in these conversations, it's like
you gotta
you
stay
you
tapped
have
in.
to you have right, you have to, and that's that's the part where we're at now, where it's just like you gotta know everything. You gotta be up to date on all the latest stuff. So I mean, I've been caught up anime wise on a lot of things, but like manga wise, like is where I'm starting to, get into with a lot of the new gen shonen.